is Doctor Who, folks. We're very forgiving.
Hello and welcome to the Minute Doctor Who podcast.
Well, having been in the Doctor's TARDIS, I thought I'd borrow the Master's to move into my new house. As you can see, I am in a new home, and that's one of the reasons I haven't done one of these for a while. The others being my usual lack of disorganisation. So anyway, here we are, back with another My New Doctor Who podcast.
I remember watching it regularly from the start, the week after it started, because I got the 2 episodes in one, because I missed the first episode the first week, but watched the 2 episodes in one evening. So from then on, throughout the 60s, till 1972, I suspect, when I went to university, I'll have watched it as a regular Saturday afternoon activity. After Grandstand, I think it was, probably. Although I don't remember a great deal about the individual stories, only 1 or 2 stick in the mind.
When I was growing up, we didn't really watch very much television at all. I think it's because my father was a very active going out man. But we did, as a family, watch Doctor Who. So they obviously decided we'd have some family viewing, and we used to sit and watch that together.
I do remember the first story, because it was the first story. And then I remember the transition between the first and second story, that the episode where the sort of cliffhanger, where you see this sort of thing poking about in front of the camera. And you aren't quite sure what's on the other end of that stick. And it turns out to be the Daleks the following week. I remember that thing quite clearly. I remember the Crotons, because there was the classic line, "All Gons leave the hall," stuck in my mind. I vaguely remember the transition between William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, where he starts to play a recorder, I think, in the first episode that he appears. And at first I was very disappointed, because he wasn't William Hartnell, he was totally different. And thought it's a bit of a strange thing, but obviously you grow to like the new Doctor, and I vaguely remember things like the Zarbis and the Mechanoids, but the storyline itself, I wouldn't know much about the stories. Just remember the characters and things like the Marco Polo one with Mark Eden. But again, what the storyline was, I have no idea. And the Toymaker, with Michael Gough playing the Doctor at the Trilogic game, which I think is also is that the Tower of Hanoi? It's called, yeah. And he just about gets the move in just before the number expires or something, and so he thwarts the Toymaker's plans.
I don't really remember much about it at all, but I would imagine we probably started watching it from the beginning. I do remember Patrick Troughton, so we definitely watched his part, and I do, I think I remember a bit about William Hartnell, but as to what most of the stories are, I can't tell you at all. The only thing I can tell you is about the Yetis. I don't remember the storyline of the Yetis, but because I grew up in London, having these Yetis coming out of the underground tunnels was quite an awful thing, because although you knew it was all pretend and make believe, somehow because you lived where the underground was, actually seeing the Yetis was not a particularly pleasant thing for a child.
So until 1972, when I went to university, I'll have watched the first few stories with John Pertwee, and Katie Manning was Jo Grant, and Unit appeared.
Didn't watch it again until my 2 sons. I don't even know why they started to buy the videos. I know that a minister down the road was into Doctor Who. I don't know whether he lent them stuff to start with. I've no idea, but they started to get videos, and then we started to watch it.
Right.
So I was then seeing Doctors I'd never seen, because they were watching. They mostly bought the coloured ones from, you know, John Pertwee upwards. So that was all new to me.
Roger Delgado, yes. I mean, he was a classic villain. I am the master and you will obey me.
You will obey me. You will obey me.
I remember the master quite well. I think he appeared in there was one story where the stone devil comes to life, and he apparently is evoking some evil spirits, but it's actually some alien bloke. I remember that story reasonably well, yeah.
Right.
But all the stuff beyond that, I never really watched Tom Baker onwards live. I only ever saw those stories later, when our two eldest children started to buy them on video. So none of those stories at all stick in my head, except one episode, which I remember stumbling across it and thinking, this is pretty scary for kids. It was when Julian Glover rips off his face and out comes the sort of hairy monster beneath. And I was thinking that really could be quite shocking for some kids, but probably I didn't need to worry. Probably didn't scare anybody.
I vaguely remember watching, I think, the 5 Doctors with the children, and that was interesting because it brought the Doctors together. So if one of my sons came to visit and said, let's watch that again, I'd be quite happy to watch it. It was interesting to watch the Doctor Who, but, you know, my particular interests are other things, so I don't think I'd go out and buy them all. But if a son visited and said, I've brought this Doctor Who for the weekend, I'd be quite happy to watch it with him. And certainly when they were growing up, it was nice to be able to watch something that they were interested in, that was good family viewing that we could enjoy. And you'd build good family memories then.
The one story that I might buy off my own bat is Inferno, which was quite a clever idea again. But I don't think I'd buy anything else apart from that one.
I've only seen the new series when my sons have come to visit, if they've been here and we've watched it. And obviously it's a totally different type of television. And although it's been enjoyable, for me, having watched the original, the TARDIS is just not the TARDIS. I mean, it's just something totally different. And so I feel sad that the original TARDIS is not there, because it almost feels like, although they're calling it Doctor Who, it's not really the same thing, although the idea of time travel's there. So it's a bit too changed, I think, for someone perhaps of my era.
It's okay. Probably take it or leave it, really. I probably wouldn't specifically turn it on to watch it necessarily, but it looks quite well made, and it fits in with the previous Doctor kind of stories, but obviously much better done and much more special effects, more realistic and all that kind of thing. Probably more money spent. David Tennant seems to me to be sometimes rather overacting a little bit. But hey, that's what the Doctor is. He's a larger than life character.